What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Underwater FlyZone podcast. This is episode 8 of season 3, and today we got Natalie Vospette.
Yeah, that was right.
Let's go. Nat. We're going to call her Nat, though. This is my homie from Smoke, the old restaurant I worked at last summer, and they barely gave me any hours, so I got out of there. But we were working together one night, and weren't we like food runners? Yeah, we were food runners, and we were just talking, and next
But
thing
you
you know,
did surf for a while.
I did, and then they I think I was bad. I literally think I was bad because they moved me to Food Runner, and Food Runner made minimum wage, and I worked like one night a week. So yeah, I was broke last summer.
I can't remember if they tipped out after you left. Okay, it's not important. But
they probably tipped out you because I kind of sucked. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the best worker there. But anyways, one night we were talking, and I told her that I had a podcast. Back then it was just season 1 though, so it was like whatever. But you said you had a podcast as well, and I was like, mine's about mental health, and you were like, same. And I was like, what the heck? And then time went on. I'm looking for a female guest for the season, because I feel like with mental health, we've had all like male guests besides Morgan Houston. Shout out Morgan Houston. But we haven't just had one solo female guest on here, and I want to just make sure that this podcast is inclusive for everybody. So I'm excited to get more of a female view on mental health, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But so we were just talking, and she put me on this private story about like spiritual awakening, something like that.
Yeah, okay, so I had this spiritual awakening like almost 2 years ago now. I was in a really terrible place in my life. Like, I have a lot of trauma from my childhood with my mom drinking. She was an alcoholic, and she's been sober for like almost 2 years now. She's like doing great.
Shout out to the mom. That's awesome.
Yeah, for real. But it was like it was just like rock bottom for everyone involved, and I was just like at a place I've never been before, questioning why I was here, like genuinely questioning why life was a thing and why we were here, and just like everything. I was so upset with just the world and just everything. And so I feel like the only way I can explain it is that I was just like asking what this is all for, and the universe just honestly answered me. Like she was just like, okay, like I'm gonna show you then. And it was just completely out of my control. I grew up Catholic, and so the thought of spirituality or branching out of that box that my religion had put me in was so crazy to me. Like, I never even fathomed doing that. And so when all this shit started happening, and I just wasn't, like, I knew that this was not me doing this and me thinking of these things on my own, it was just kind of really apparent to me that, like, there was something bigger than me happening. And it was honestly such an intuitive thing. Like, obviously at a certain point I started researching and just like trying to figure out what was really going on and like learning everything that I could, but for a while it was just me intuitively figuring things out and just knowing that I was having a spiritual awakening and just knowing that like things were like so much was changing.
So what was going on in your like, what were you experiencing? Like, what were the thoughts? What were the feelings?
The veil was just being lifted. Like, my entire system of beliefs and the way that I viewed the world was just completely broken down. Okay. And I was just like, it's so cliche when I talk about it, but there's no other way to explain that. I was just like taken on this journey that I've just, even I was thinking today about what I was gonna say when I talk about it, and I don't even know how to explain what was happening to me on a daily basis, because unless it was something extremely profound that impacted me for good, or something that I wrote down or recorded or talked about in a podcast, it was so like otherworldly to me that I just didn't, for a long time I didn't even know what was happening. And so looking back, it's like I can't exactly explain very accurately what I was experiencing, but I was just thinking of things in a whole new way. Like, all these Bible stories I knew because of being Catholic, all of a sudden it was literally just put into my head out of nowhere. Like, one time I just randomly started thinking about the story of Adam and Eve and how I truly think that it was a metaphorical story for how ego was bound to consciousness. Yeah. And
a lot of the Bible, this is what people often don't realize, is a metaphor. A lot of it is literally like, it's not saying like this literally happened. It's saying this is how you're here. This is what happened. This is what life is. This is who you are. Like, you are ego and consciousness. We weren't actually just one woman and one man put on this earth, and then we ate an apple that the devil snake gave us. Like, that's literally not. That's what I realized with spirituality, is that like so much of what I believed in before doesn't even make sense unless you look
in between the lines and
That's
like
why
look at the big picture.
The Bible's a living and breathing book. Like it will, the stories in it will live on forever because you could apply the stories to your own life.
Right.
If you just realize like, oh, that's not actually what they're saying happened. What they're saying is it's essentially a metaphor for, like you were just saying, because a lot of it is about not having an ego, taking yourself out of the situation, you know?
Right.
Humility is probably the top thing the Bible offers.
And like I personally think that like I think that sin just is your ego. Your ego is your thoughts, your feelings, and your ego's not all bad. I feel like there's such a common misconception out there, and like spirituality, it's hard for me to talk about as much nowadays because when I first started, the whole reason I got into this was to tell you that I used to have like a private story with, there was like 450, 500 people on it, and they would, I would just like post a bunch of shit.
That's where the loophole begins.
Yeah, I would just post on there every single day, like every little thought that would come into my brain, and people just started being like, yo, you actually changed my entire life, like you saved my life, like you changed my whole perspective. So I was like, oh, okay, like, and then I just started devoting so much time to that story and like trying to wake people up and like sharing what I was experiencing. Starting a podcast.
Isn't that kind of weird? Because it's like I started this for the same reason, and anyone who that's listened for a while knows. Like I've talked about before. Like I literally just used to post my thoughts, and it for me it was, what do I need to hear today? And I would just I told myself this. All right, I'm gonna post it because I bet out of like whoever I have on Snap, someone else needs to hear it. And then next you know, out of nowhere, people are saying, "You changed my life." I'm like, really?
Right? No,
like,
yeah.
Really? But
and
okay, cool.
I feel like that is how that really is how it happens. Like it's stuff that you know that you're needing to hear, and like for me, it was stuff that I knew was helping me and like giving me a purpose and like a reason to still be here. Because like I said, I was in literally one of the darkest places I've ever been in. Aside from going to the hospital and that whole ordeal, like it was a really, really dark time. And so I feel like realizing how much it helped me to grow and be okay and like wake up in the morning and actually be excited for something, to be excited to like keep learning and to like be excited to dive into a side of life that made me happy, I was just like, okay, I need to share this with people. And so I like had that private story, and I just felt this urge to like share everything and like help anyone I could. And like I got so much hate for it in the beginning because like I was gonna say, back when I first started posting this, it wasn't really big on TikTok. Like this was before it ever started blowing up on TikTok and becoming like a trend. And so at least in Lee Summit.
Wait, you would say what was blowing up on TikTok? Like
spirituality. Like, now it's like a huge thing. Like every girl in Lee Summit wears crystals. Like that's why I don't even wear crystals hardly anymore, except for like bracelets. Yeah. But because everyone has one on, and it's like so cliche. It's like nowadays.
It's just a vibe now.
Right. Okay. It's like I don't know. I've
never learned about the crystal thing, but I do know what you're talking about. It is kind of like...
It's just like so common now, and it's just like there's just like this whole like population of people who are like spiritual, and it's like ultimately I would want anyone and everyone to become spiritual, like authentically spiritual, and just like find peace and like
actually know what
like
it's
just
talking
like
about.
Not even to have the aesthetic, not like because they think crystals are pretty. Like if you think crystals are pretty, wear them. I don't give a fuck. But like at the same time, it's not just an aesthetic like trend type of thing. Like, oh my god, this is so cool. Like I think this is really interesting. Like I'm just gonna start talking about this all the time and like whatever, because it's like if you truly want to be authentically spiritual, like it needs to be for you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like an internal, like completely by yourself journey. It doesn't mean you can't help people and people can't help you, and you can't like teach each other.
Exactly.
But that's like for you. And so I don't know, I hate talking about spirituality. It's not the same as it used to be, because before I was almost like for the longest time getting hate for it.
That's
people were so confused by it. They were so shocked by it. They were like, you're fucking crazy. Like, why are you saying this shit? Like, you're weird.
I can relate to this because it's like wearing a cross. It's like I wear it for like a reason, but a lot of people just wear it because it looks cool or whatever. And then same thing there too. Like you if you talk about God, you talk about this stuff, even talking about how we talk about, not with a religion but with like a relationship, and like talking about how a lot of Bible for is a metaphor, you'll get hate from Christians about that.
Yeah.
And then just talking about God in general, you'll get hate from other people about that. It's hard to but it's important to just embrace who you are, because if that's what you believe, like, that's you. Like, embrace that. Don't hide from that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. In the beginning, I had people literally, like, there was this one dude who, like, went off on me, and he was like telling me how I'm like insane and I like need to get like psychiatric help. And I was like, I don't know why you're so mad right now, but I had so many people tell me like, yeah, I honestly thought you were kind of like losing your shit for a second there, but they were like, I finally like dropped my own personal judgment and stopped being so afraid of like trying to fathom things I can't understand. And he was like, once I finally started actually listening, it made sense to me. They were like, oh shit, you might actually be right here. And so many people started listening, and I just felt like in that moment in my life, I just really needed to be sharing everything I was learning. I really needed to be just putting it out there, and I did wake a lot of people up. I still have people to this day who text me and need my help with something or need my advice or like just tell me like, I hope you're doing good, like, you really, really changed my perspective on everything. And so, like, to me, it was, like, worth it, and I was doing what I should have been doing at that time in my life. Like, I helped people, I helped myself.
Exactly.
It being there and being, like, feeling like I was held responsible for giving these people what they were looking forward to every day, and, like, being able to, like, give them knowledge was me also holding myself accountable for doing the work every day.
I can relate to that completely, because I was at a point where I was like, I want to delete Snap, I want to get off all social media, but I'm like, I can't,
but I'm
because people are literally like wanting to hear what I say. And
then it's like, okay, well, if I just give up on all of them, like, I'm also giving up on me, because I'm not going to keep doing this shit for myself.
And anybody watching, that could be you too. Like, literally, all it was for me was, I'm having a rough day, here's what I need to be told, and I posted on my story. I'm sure everyone can relate. You could easily do that. I'd take a picture of like the road or something and just like just a quote, you know. But it's really that easy. So if you desire something like this, you know, it's literally that simple.
No, literally, I didn't expect anyone to listen to me. Yeah, but I just felt like this urge. Like, I just felt, and here, like I said, I don't like talking about spirituality because it's just so, like, cliche, and I'll have people still tell me, like, oh, do you still, like, play with rocks? Yeah. And I'm like, literally, fuck you.
See, I don't understand. I would love to learn more about it, but I haven't.
And, like, it's not even the crystals. Like, I don't have crystals, like, spilling out of my pockets, but it's just, like, that's what everyone associates me with whenever I'm like, yeah, I'm, like, a spiritual person. They're like, oh, wow, like, you carry rocks in your pocket? And I'm like no, But yeah, so anyway, like, I don't know, I believe in, like, a lot of different things, and, you know, it's fine if people don't agree with me. Like, I know that some of the things I can say and talk about sound really, like, really weird, really, and people are like, I don't really know if I, like, want to even consider that. For sure, and that's fine. But it's just because I was completely stripped of all of my judgment and all of my, like, I was just stripped of all of my previous beliefs and my previous perspectives, and I was stripped of my ability to judge what was happening, and I was just realizing that if these things that I was 100% in fact witnessing were possible, like, there's so many other things that are possible, and we actually don't know anything. Literally. And so I just started posting shit because I was like, okay, people can not listen to me, but I just felt like I was being called to share what I was going through and experiencing, so I did. And then I went into and it did. And then I went to the hospital. And
so what put you in the hospital, essentially, if you don't mind sharing?
So basically, I had an eating disorder for a period of time, and I've had a therapist since I was 4. So I think that's another thing that really helped me, like, growing up. I've been in therapy my whole life, and my psychologist is my favorite person on the planet. I literally love her so much. She's, like, basically my family at this point, and she's really, really, really intelligent. Like, she's so bright. So she's helped me through a lot.
How did you start having her when you were 4, though? Like, did your family, like, recommend it, or were you, like, as a 4-year-old, you're like, I need help?
Something really traumatic happened to me when I was, like, little with a family member.
Okay. So that led you to go.
Yeah, and so my parents put me in therapy, and my dad's best friend who passed away, his name is Gary. He was a pretty, like, well-known lawyer, so he had a lot of connections. Yeah. And Lorinda, who's my therapist, she is, like, she has, like, adult patients. She, like, does everything, but she used to specialize in, like, child psychology and went to, like, court for children and everything. So Her practice was actually closed, I'm pretty sure, when she took me in, but I think she did it as, like, a favor for Gary, and I've just been her like,
that's so
patient
cool.
ever
So
since.
you've just been growing up with her then?
Yeah, she actually, okay, it's the cutest thing ever. I don't even talk about this very much because I feel like it comes off cocky, but I'm, like, her actual favorite patient.
There you go.
Like, I swear to God, she, like, tells me this all the time. Like, she tells me she loves me. Like, that's my second mom.
Yeah,
but,
well, fast forward, you go into the hospital.
Yeah, so I go into the hospital because I had, like, an eating disorder, but it wasn't just that. I don't want to get into, like, too much information on the podcast.
That's fine.
But, like, I just had a lot of health issues going on with, like, my, like, menstrual cycles and stuff. They were, like, making me throw up for days on end every month. Like, I'm not even talking just, like, throwing up multiple times a day. If I wasn't asleep, I was throwing up. And it was to the point where I couldn't even keep water down. And it happened for, like, 5 months in a row. And I would go to the hospital, and they would do a bunch of tests and then tell me they couldn't figure it out, that they could only rule things out. And so I was just like, okay. And every time I would go back and they wouldn't know what it was. And finally it was like the last straw. Yeah, I had like lost, just because when you're throwing up like that and you can't eat or drink anything for days, it's like you lose a lot of weight. And then I started putting it back on, and then I would throw up and lose all that weight again. Dude. And it was just a terrible cycle. So I had lost,
couldn't imagine that.
My normal weight's 125, and I had gotten down to 92. And so they, like, finally admitted me into the hospital, and they ended up finding out I had SMA syndrome. Well, I have a disorder with my hormones, so I have, like, spikes of estrogen, which makes me really sick during my menstrual cycle. And then I also have, like, SMA syndrome because of the constant throwing up every month.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
basically my stomach had gotten like flat like a balloon, and they had to like put a feeding tube in and like inflate my intestine and then like get my stomach to inflate.
How's it like healed now? Like,
yeah, no, I'm chilling now. I'm up to like 122 pounds.
Okay,
I'm like chilling. Yeah, no eating disorder anymore. Like, I'm cool. But
dude, I can't stand.
Well, the worst part, even more than that, yeah, it was painful. It was terrible. They didn't know if I was gonna live. Like, it was bad. My heart rate was down to like the 45, 50s.
What?
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, it was really terrible because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And so finally I was on a feeding tube for a long time, but the worst part was the way they treated me in there. I was like completely honest with them because I just wanted to get better, right?
Yeah, literally.
And I had an eating disorder. Like, I'll fully admit that I was getting help from my therapist for it. I had known that for like 7 months prior.
Yeah.
So I told them all the information. I told them I wasn't bulimic. I never made myself throw up. Like, I had an eating disorder, but there was, like, things I never did. It was not an intense eating disorder. From my eating disorder, I'd lost, like, 5 pounds. Like, I was getting help. Like, I was actually chilling.
Yeah.
But the second they heard eating disorder, they put me on the eating disorder unit, took my clothes, told me wearing my clothes was a privilege, took my phone, told me having my phone was, like, a danger to my health, so I couldn't talk to anyone. I was cut out from the outside world completely.
What?
They made a nurse, like a CNA, sit in my room 24/7 with me. Like, day in, day out, they watched me sleep. They watched me go to the bathroom. They watched me shower, like, naked.
Dude, like, what?
The CNA could even be a man, and he would watch me shower naked.
Dude,
either that or my dad or mom had to, like, sit in there and help me shower.
That's not helping you too much.
No, and, like, I could literally, they took away my TV.
Really?
Yeah, they told me I wasn't allowed to watch TV because it was a privilege and I was making them mad.
What do they mean, a privilege? Like,
I don't know. They didn't like me because I knew their shit better than they did. They treated me terribly in there.
That's insane.
Once they finally, like, they did a good job diagnosing me with SMA and then, like, getting me the treatment. But the second they took me, like, off of, like, formula food and put me on a real, like, feeding plan, they put me on the biggest meal plan that they had. So they put me on G plan, which is 6 meals a day.
Dude, well, I don't even think I could eat 6 meals a day.
Yeah, neither could my dad. What? Like, my dad was like, I could not eat the shit that they try to make you eat all day.
Yeah.
And it was just ridiculous. Like,
it wasn't very good food either.
No, I wasn't allowed to pick my food because of my eating disorder, so I couldn't even pick what I wanted. Like,
that's insane.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
And
like, it was borderline abusive. No, they were. I had 30 minutes to eat a meal. If I couldn't, and, like, they would watch me eat it. If I couldn't eat it in 30 minutes, then it would get put in a shake. And if I couldn't drink that in 15 minutes, then I would be put back in square one and start over, and I would have my feeding tube back in.
That's insane.
It was like a punishment type thing. Like, it was really bad.
I'm not even going to hate. I don't know anything about how to work in a hospital, but that does not sound very beneficial.
No, it was
to me,
not. Okay, like, at the end of the day, they, like, I don't know, refeeding syndrome happens whenever you don't have, like, any food or, like, any nutrients in your body for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you have, like, too much food put into your body really fast.
Yeah.
And you, like, go into cardiac arrest and blah, blah, blah. And they, like, nearly put me in refeeding syndrome because, like, my heart rate was going, like, 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I, like, had to take a nap. I, like, was, like, not seeing straight. I felt terrible. I felt like my stomach was actually going to explode. And then I woke up and, like, threw up everywhere. And that was the day that they told me. So I had, the first day they put me on that plan, I, like, kept everything down. I don't know how I kept all of that down, but I really wanted to go home. And they told me I could go home the next day if I did. And then I wake up and they're like, you actually have to make it through 3 meals before you can go home. Really? So I made it through 3 meals, and then I'm laying there and I, like, felt like I was going to throw up. I was like, dude, like, this is terrible. Like, I'm literally, like, my stomach's going to explode. And my heart was racing. So I took a nap, woke up, threw up everywhere. And I hadn't thrown up in, like, a week.
Yeah.
And
which was rare at the time.
And then as I'm throwing up, they come in and bring me more food. And they did that for, like, 3 days. They would keep me on the meal plan, and every time they would shove this food down my throat, I would fucking throw up because it was so much food I couldn't even keep it down. And then they would tell me every time that I was making myself throw up. And I'm like, everyone in this room is watching me. I'm not making myself throw up. Like, I want to leave. Why would I be doing that?
Yeah.
So like, they just, like, would keep bringing me food. I would be, like, throwing up. And they would bring me a plate of food and be like, you have to eat this. Dang. And my dad would be like, she's throwing up right now. And they'd be like, we don't care. 30 minutes starts now.
What?
So finally, like, on, like, the 4th day, I woke up and I looked at my dad and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I would be sitting there crying, throwing up, telling him, like, please, like, get them to stop. Like, begging him. And I was like, I'm not.
How old were you at the time?
This was a year ago.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Well,
oh my gosh.
I don't know when I can't remember when you started working at Smoke, but there was, like, a period of time where I was gone from Smoke for, like, 3 weeks.
Yeah,
because
I remember
I was
that.
in the hospital.
I remember that. Because you came out of nowhere, and I was like, who's this?
Yeah, because you started working there when I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I had gotten my job, like, 2 weeks before the hospital.
Literally, I was like, hey, what's up?
But
and
yeah,
I was like, who's new? And you're like, no, I've been here.
Yeah, I had been there, but just not for a minute.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and they just, like, had me on that meal plan for, like, 4 days or something like that. And I finally told my dad, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, they're literally torturing me. Like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
I was like, I went from not throwing up for a week to throwing up every day. Like, I'm done. I'm eating till I'm full, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So the doctor comes in, and this is illegal, by the way, but he asked my dad to leave the room for privacy questions. And privacy questions can, like, your parent can only leave the room if they're asking about, like, sexual abuse or, like, domestic abuse at home.
Really?
Yes. And he makes my dad leave the room and then sits down. He's like, so it seems like you're not eating, like, to punish me. And I was like, I literally looked him in the face and I said, I don't give a fuck about you. I was like, I really don't care. Like, I don't care enough to try and punish you. Like, you guys are making me eat so much food I can't even keep it all down, like, without throwing up. Like, I'm done with this shit. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And so we got him taken off my case. And finally, my parents, like, they kept me on the meal plan for, like, another day. It was, like, this big fight. We were just constantly fighting with them, bro. Yeah. They wouldn't let me leave the hospital. I couldn't leave my hospital room. So I just, like, laid in bed. Like, it was terrible. I couldn't watch TV. And, so finally my parents called, like, a meeting with the head of the hospital unit. Mm-hmm. And they were like, if you don't do something, we're taking our daughter and leaving and going to St. Louis. Yeah. And so they put me on a normal meal plan. They gave me my phone. They gave me my TV privileges back, and I got better in 3 days and left.
So literally,
and they came in and they couldn't even give me an apology. One of my doctors was like, he said, like, word for word, he was like, we were supposed to be teaching you, but you actually taught us.
Really?
Yeah, that's the only thing that like, the head doctor said to me. And then one of my other doctors was like, you are really wise. Like, I expect to see you on the news one day. But that's the only 2 things they said to me. That's it. And then after I left, like, we owed them $100,000 for the hospital stay. And they fucked up. Insane. They fucked up so badly that they had to take off $98,000. Well, so all we owe them is $2,000.
Okay, well, was it worth it or not? I don't know. Yeah, honestly, no.
No, but actually, but here's the thing. Like, that's what I was going to talk about. Like, the hospital was an ego death for me. Like, going into the hospital, I was at, like, my peak of spirituality. Like, I was really, really, like, honestly, there are some days where I just feel like I would do anything to go back to that place that I was at in my life before. Like, I know that that's not realistic.
Yeah.
And I feel like most of the time I can be really good about acknowledging that that's not logical, because I'm better off now than I was before. Like, now, I don't try to, like, it's confusing, because I realized that before, even though I've always been in therapy and I've always been pretty good at, like, acknowledging the ways that I'm self-sabotaging and the ways that my trauma is affecting me and this and that, whatever, like, I'm almost painfully self-aware of all my flaws. But at the same time, I feel like when I had my eating disorder, I was subconsciously running from so many things by, like, not eating and like not having a healthy relationship with food, and that gave me a sense of control, because I had no control over anything else in my life.
Okay.
And so it's like, I know that back then I was worse off. Like, I'm better off now because I deal with my shit in a healthy way. Like, sometimes things get real rough. I, like, up until like a week ago, I was in a really dark place too. That's why I was like low-key trying to put off this like this episode, because I was like, I just don't know. She put this off for a while, for sure. I did. Okay, some of the times I genuinely like had things come up, but then sometimes I was like, I just can't go on there right now. I have nothing good to say to people. And
that's okay. But, I'm glad we got it when we got it. I feel like this is a good time to do it.
But I don't know. The hospital just, like, it was just like an ego death to me, because I was in a really good place spiritually. Yeah. And it just kind of made me... I just had an ego death. Like, I did not know who I was after all of that. I thought I was gonna die. I was terrified to die, but also kind of in a place where I was, like, so defeated, I just kind of gave up. And, like, didn't really care. And that was also really scary, because I've never been like that. Like, I've struggled with mental illness throughout my life. Mental illness that I was just kind of, like, born with, you know? I feel like almost everyone has either anxiety or depression or both. It's, like, it's such a big thing. Yeah. But, like, especially I also have, like, media and all that. 95% of the symptoms of borderline personality disorder from my mom.
Really?
So, like, I have, you know, issues, but, like, I've never, ever, thankfully, been in a place where I was, like, suicidal. Like, truly, truly suicidal. Yeah. And so it was really terrifying to, like, almost be okay with the fact that I could die. Like, that was really scary for me to realize, like, wow, you actually gave up in that moment. It was just crazy, like, coming back from that whole experience.
What's
feeling like no one... Huh?
Like, what's helped you come out of that spot right there? Just chugging on, just keep pushing?
No.
Well, what?
To let myself feel the way that I feel.
Okay. I like that.
You can't rush healing. It's not a linear process. It doesn't happen step by step. Everyone wants to act like there's some program you can follow, and that if you, like, do this and this and this, you can heal. And there are things that help you heal. Yeah, but it's not a step-by-step process. It's not some, like, by-the-book thing that you can do. Like, it's crazy, and it's all over the place. And there's some really, really good days, and then there's sometimes where you're having, like, a really great month, and then this week comes along where you just feel like complete shit. Yeah. And you can't be mad at yourself for that. Like, I feel like I get in this place where I just want all my healing to happen right now. I acknowledge something that's going on. I acknowledge something that I'm doing to myself. I acknowledge some way that my trauma's, like, messing up my life. And then I'm like, okay, like, I know what to do, like, I know what's happening, and, like, let's just fix it right now, and so that's, like, not realistic.
You're not running from it, and you're just, like, accepting, like, hey, I feel this way, and I'm going to let myself feel this way. I'm not going to run from it in a different way. I had to realize,
coming out of the hospital, like I said, it was a really huge ego death, and, like, I didn't know who I was. I felt like the only people who truly saw what happened to me in there was my parents, and even they couldn't possibly understand it, because they'll even admit, like, they've never seen something like that, and they've never experienced something like that, and they don't even know what to say about it. And so it's like, to feel like that was the one time I'm, like, truly alone, like, no one knows what happened to me in there, and I couldn't even try to explain it. It's like, it was just crazy. Like, it was the hardest thing I've ever dealt with, and I've had some pretty difficult things with my mom. And so it's just like, it just really took me by surprise, and I wasn't expecting that. And so coming out of it, I think it was just really hard for me. Like, I think everyone thinks that ego deaths can only happen with psychedelics, but that's so not true. Like, I ended up realizing that I had an ego death with the hospital in that whole experience. Like, I was just completely stripped of who I thought I was. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know how to be. I felt like they completely changed me in there, and I came out a whole different person.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, those experiences can allow ego death, because even like with my situation before my friend died, like I was a completely different person than who I am now. Like,
exactly.
It just, those situations just change. It changes from you thinking, oh, this is all about me. Now you're thinking, oh, it's about like for me, it's no longer about me. It's about how, like, if I was doing this podcast and that never happened, I'd probably be sitting here talking about something else, trying to just make it all clout and money and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm literally like, I do this literally for other people.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's all. I told you before we started this, I'm like, any money I make off this, whatever, like,
right.
as long, the impact is what matters to me. And that's something that never would have happened situation. But
right. And
you put empathy on here. I want to get into that before, because we're at like 30 minutes here. I want to get into. So what'd you put empathy on there for? I want to hear this.
Actually, this is also like more about my therapist too. So whenever I was really, really little, like probably 6 or 7, my therapist told me, she was like, you are an empath, but you probably don't know what that means, and you won't know for a while. And I didn't know for a while. And then I had my spiritual awakening, and like I started learning what empathy was and like what being an empath is. And like empathy, I think everyone knows what empathy is, but empathy, I mean, it is a little different than being empathic. But not everyone does have empathy. Like empathy, I don't feel like I need to give like a textbook definition. Right? Everyone knows what empathy is, but being empathic is more like being completely tuned into the energy of another person, and the energy of things, like the energy of not just people but music, animals, the collective energy of nature. Like literally just being extremely sensitive to that. Like I can tell what mood a person is in the second I walk in the room. I can tell, like, what's happening to you even before you say it. Like, I remember one time this guy came into my friend's house, and I didn't know him. I didn't know he just broke up with his girlfriend, but I could tell he was, like, in a lot of pain. And I asked Andrew, I was like, did he just go through a breakup? And he was like, yeah, his girlfriend just broke up with him. Like, I just can tell things. Yeah. And, okay, it's so, I hate to be cliche. Like, I don't know. It makes me so hesitant to talk about spirituality because so many people roll their eyes now. Yeah. But I swear to God, I'm psychic. Like, I swear to God.
Psychic?
All my friends can attest to it. Like, they've experienced it. Everyone thinks I'm, like, calling bullshit. Like, they all call bullshit on me, and then they're like, oh, wait. Like, you actually just knew what was about to happen. Yeah. But, I just have, like, psychic knowing. Like, it's not like I will, like, see visions or, like, hear voices or anything like that, but I just will, like, get this feeling, and it's usually right.
Dude, in a way, I could almost, because I tell my girlfriend this all the time. I'm like, I don't even have to talk to a person. I already know the type of person they are. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't know, dude, it's weird.
One of my best friends, like probably my best friend ever, like, I don't know, she's like, just one of my best friends in the whole world, Samantha. When I first met her, the second time I ever met her, I, like, psychoanalyzed her. Like, I was just like, because we were just talking about how I've been in therapy my whole life and how, like, honestly, being in therapy for so long and, like, being in therapy at such a young age, like, my therapist helped to shape my mind. Like, my mind kind of just works like that. Yeah. Which comes with its good and bad things. Mm-hmm. But, I was just kind of explaining to her like that, and she was just like, so what do you think about me? And I just, like, told her everything that I thought about her, and she was, like, crying.
She, like, you literally,
yes, she was crying. She was like, you told me things that I didn't even realize about myself until you said it.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was a crazy moment for me. There were times
I'm not that in depth, but that's crazy.
There were times that I would go, like, out with my friends, and, like, one time we went to an abandoned building, and we were, like, walking up to the abandoned building, and I just got this
Where's the building at?
It was just in KC somewhere.
West Bottoms?
Close, but it wasn't West Bottoms.
I was gonna say, never mind.
But I just had this terrible feeling, and I was like, we need to leave. And they're like, no. And I was like, yes, no, we're leaving. Okay. So we, like, turn around, leave. We're, like, walking back to our car, and we're, like, across the street, and cops pull up. And I'm like, okay, we're running. Like, we're running.
Yeah, literally. Dude, that's insane.
Yeah, and then, like, another time I was, like, smoking a joint with my friend. Is that bad? Should I not say that on the podcast? You're chilling. Okay.
Should I not say that? No,
I was smoking a joint with my friend Lexi, and we were, like, driving. and I was, like, speeding, because I literally can't not speed, but, we were driving, and I just, like, randomly handed her the joint, and there was, like, half of it left, and I was like, Lexi, throw this at the window, like, put it out now, throw it out, and she just throws it out, and, like, a whole minute later, we pass a cop.
Bro.
And he was, like, radaring, so I was like, if he had cared that I was speeding and saw me smoking a joint,
you would have been in for
I would have not
a fun night for sure.
Yeah,
but that's crazy. I don't know. I love hearing some of that stuff because I'm like, that's really weird. Because I guess what is it called? I've never heard that word. Empath. I feel like if you described it more, I feel like that might be
and there's
me.
Like different types of. There's like different types of empaths too. Yeah, like lots of different types. I'm pretty sure I'm a okay empath.
I don't even know what that means.
Which is something that I just realized, like, recently, kind of. Okay. Like, through meditation.
For me, it's, like, another thing I tell my girlfriend all the time, I'm like, I just have this undescribable feeling, but when someone says, like, something they care about, like, if someone calls on someone, they're like, who wants to do this? And they're like, me. Them saying me, I'm like, they want to do it. I'm like, something in me, like, I don't understand that feel. I'm opening up here in episode 8, but I don't understand. I can't put it into words what I feel in that moment, but I'm like, I'm just glad that they want to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I know that there's people that literally are like, who wants to do this? And they're like, no. Like,
no, yeah.
That's stupid. But then, like, someone actually wanting to go out and, I don't know.
No, I
don't know how to describe it, bro. I
understand what you're saying, though. Like, if I'm, like, around people and they're just, like, so happy, or they're just, like, so passionate about something, bro, or, like I just feel so good for them. But then there's also, like, so many moments where someone is, like, I feel so badly for people.
Yes.
And there's, like, moments where, like, it's not even just me feeling bad for them, but, like, there's moments where if I'm, like, really close to a person especially, I will literally feel their pain, and it's like, bro, like, dude, I'm not even trying to feel like this right now.
Bro, at my job today, literally, this is so crazy, but there was this little girl at my job today. She's like, Mommy, can we make these donuts for Memorial Day? Or these cookies? I don't even know what it was. And the mom was like, no, not today. And the daughter was like, okay, and like put it away.
That's so sad.
Like something inside of me, just like my heart just shattered. I'm like,
I know, no, that is sad. That shit makes me want to cry.
But like, it's like more than just like, dang, that's sad. It's like,
I feel that in my heart, and I'm just like, no, I'll make cookies with you.
Literally, I was like, I'll buy them. But
that's so cute.
I don't know. That's funny. That's funny because I guess just you explaining that, I was like, that might be me.
Right, and I think,
might be me.
Honestly, I think my empathy did, like, help me in a lot of ways to, like, overcome what I've been through, because, like, okay, for example, I met, like, Lexi, I was talking about, I don't want to, like, spill all her business, so, I mean, I don't know how many people would know her if I don't even say her last name, but she was struggling with an eating disorder like me.
Yeah.
She moved to my school this year, and she developed one, like, at the beginning of the school year, and we're becoming friends, and I'm, like, usually super open about what I went through. Like, I'm not gonna trauma dump on you if you don't want to hear my personal experiences, but when people ask, like, I'm usually not the type to be like, no,
when someone's
I don't
like, come on a podcast.
I don't care, like, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And so, like, she knew about all the things that I've been through, like, with the hospital and just my eating disorder and everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, her mom ended up taking her to the doctor, and they were like, yeah, you have an eating disorder, and we need to, like, take you to the hospital so you can get, like, on a treatment and whatever. And she was like, fuck, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I literally watched what they did to Natalie. I'm not going to Children's Mercy. Like, fuck that place.
Yeah.
I will figure it out on my own. So she, like,
no
came
way.
up with this plan on her own, and, like, has gained, like, 10 pounds, and didn't have to go to the hospital, and didn't get put through the shit I went through. So it's, like, that is another thing that really helped me coming out of everything, is that, like, everything truly does happen for a reason, and that's such a cheesy quote,
but it's so true.
But it's genuinely the truth.
That's
because
something I've talked about this
back,
season, man.
Every single thing that I thought was done to me, every single thing that I thought happened to me, I had to realize, like, it happened for me. There was a reason for every single thing I've been through. Any breakup that I had that broke my heart, any, like, split up with my friend that really hurt me, any time that my mom hurt me, any time that, like, something crazy like the hospital happened, or anything terrible that looking back was a source of pain for me, I had to realize, like, every time that it served a purpose, and it always led to some, like, discovery about myself, or to some, like, lesson I learned in life, or
literally
revealed some opportunity for growth for me. And, like, in this case, there's so many different good things that are going to come out of this experience. Like, I would never wish it on anyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can't change that it happened. Mm-hmm. And so there's no point in dwelling on it. Like, at the end of the day, it helped someone I really care about. Yeah. It helped me. Yeah. Because I now deal with my emotions in, like, a raw, healthy way. Before, I was running from them with sources of control that didn't actually supply me with anything of substance. And
if
now,
any, like, one situation wouldn't have happened in your life, you wouldn't be who you are. Like, not, you'd maybe, like, 98% of who you are, but
exactly.
You wouldn't wholly be who you are without.
And I needed that ego death. Like, I needed to realize that even though, yes, I was becoming so wise and so knowledgeable, like, I can look back and be like, okay, yeah, you deserve credit for what you were doing. Like, you were helping people, you were discovering things, like, you were being so, like, wise and so, like, curious about life, and I loved that was who I am, I was at that time. But I also, like, I feel like I needed that ego death to realize that, like, I'll never be done. Exactly. You're never done learning. I'm never done growing. And just because I'm in a really good place at this point in my life doesn't mean I'm going to stay there forever. I was so heartbroken. I was like, damn, like, I would even talk to my dad and just cry to him and be like, damn, I was in such a good place with my spirituality, like, before the hospital. I was in such a good place, and, like, that's gone forever, and it like, the hospital fucking ruined me, and, like, blah, 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 and I just had to realize, like, I can get back to that, and I can get better than that. Like, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna, like, as I'm diving into my spiritual side a lot more, because for a long time I could barely even be spiritual. I meditated like once a month. I wasn't on that shit for a long time because I had so much shit that I had to do in here to, like, be okay, that I couldn't devote energy to anything like that. I had to devote all my energy went to healing. And so, like, I just felt like I would never get back to that. And I just had to realize, like, I'm gonna get back into the spiritual side of life. Like, I'll get back to that version of myself, and I'll feel more comfortable in that version of myself every day, but I'm also going to go into that with more knowledge than I had before. And
you're going to be so much stronger than you ever were. You're going to be, like, I said this example, like, in one of these episodes this season. It's like when there's, like, a town and a tornado comes and rips through it, they're going to rebuild that town. And it although, like, it sucked when it was destroyed, it's now brand new and better than it's ever been. Exactly. It's like, that's how we are as people. Like, we're who we are right now. Some crazy stuff happens, like a hospital situation like that, just jacks you up, and you're like, gosh, like, this is as bad as it gets. This is the rock bottom. But then you're like, oh wait, if it's the rock bottom, you look around, you're like, I can't go any farther down. I can only go up. You start to go up, and you get rebuilt. And dude, literally, like, you say, when you said you'll get back to who you used to be, like, genuinely, like, you will never get back. Like, you'll be so far ahead of that.
Completely. Literally. Like, I'll never be who I was before. Like, I can do the things that I used to do that brought me peace. Like, I can get back. I can tap into that side of myself again, but I'll never be her again. And that's, like, okay. I think that's what helped me a lot, too. There's so many things that helped me, like, get out of the depression that I was in from that. And, like, honestly, part of it was just having to ride out the ego death. Like, I just had to ride it out. I just had to wait for that shit to pass, because it's bigger than you. Psychedelics, this is a whole other topic, but psychedelics, weed, trauma, all of these things that completely shift your perspective, they're bigger than you. Like, you don't really ultimately have control in those situations, and so, like, all you can do is just kind of surrender to it and just let it teach you what it has to teach you, and it will pass eventually. And I think for me, I just had to realize that, like, to have myself stripped of my ego, and to have it actually be hard, and to be, like, effort and hard work for me, was really humbling. Like, when I was going through my spiritual awakening, I was really lucky to have it be so out of my control. So many people nowadays, like, want to dive into the spiritual side of life because they think it's going to really help them, and they have such a hard time because they're so overwhelmed by it, and it's so, like, intimidating to them. And I understand that, because that's how it is for me almost now. Like, you have to put in this work that feels, like, really uncomfortable and, like,
but that's where you're gonna grow.
And scary. But exactly. Like, for me, before, when my spirituality was just, like, taking me along and I was just experiencing, that was really great, and I was lucky because it really pushed me headfirst into everything, and there was, like, no way that I could hold myself back. I couldn't resist it, you know, like, I could not make myself hesitate. So it was, like, great because it just forced me to be open-minded.
Yeah,
but at the same time, now having to actually kind of put work into it and realize that, like, if I want to be that comfortable and if I want to be that at peace again, I'm going to have to put in the hard work. I feel like it was really humbling for me to realize, like, okay, things aren't always going to come easy to you.
Yeah, for sure.
And that doesn't mean it's not worth it. And just because this is, like, intimidating to you, and just because you know that it's not going to feel the same way it used to feel before, doesn't mean it's not worth it. And it doesn't mean that it's not good for you. And it doesn't mean that you can't get back to that. It just isn't going to be the same way. And that's fine. Literally.
And I have a question because it's at 45 minutes. What, do you believe that you can experience the ego death without psychedelics and without experiencing trauma? Do you believe it could truly happen?
I think it's a different level of an ego death.
Yeah.
I think that the ego death that we talk about when you are talking in terms of psychedelics and trauma and things like that, I think that's the most intense form you could have, and it's completely different than you. Like, I have friends, like, you have hallucinations. You don't even know what's happening. Like, my friends saw terrible, terrible, terrible things happening that weren't really there. But a form of an ego death, yes, because I did.
Yeah, literally.
Like, my ego was completely stripped from me, and I was in a really, really, really weird in-between place for months. And, like, watching my friends go through their ego death, I went through the same exact thing. It just wasn't on the same, like, level of consciousness. Theirs was more, like, in their head, hallucinogenic, like, very intense spiritually, and mine was more, like, on this physical plane. Yeah,
because for me, like, I had my experience with my trauma or whatever, but I have literally never, I don't know, did I ever tell you this? I've never drank, never smoked,
really?
Dude, I'm like, I've never even vaped before.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so, like, if I'm like, dang, did I have a true ego death? I don't know. But I think, I truly feel like I did experience it through my situation, but...
I'm sure you probably did. I feel like when you have an ego death, you just kind of know. Yeah. Like, you just honestly know it.
You just know that, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing stuff for me. You know, my first thought isn't like, oh, what can I benefit from this? It's like, that's just, I think that if that's your first thought, you probably haven't experienced it.
Yeah,
that's my
completely.
That's my I don't even know what my first thought is. I guess it depends on the situation, but it's never what am I going to gain from this?
Right.
You know?
It's like, how can I help other people gain from this?
Yeah, literally. But anyways, getting long here, so I'm going to ask you the question that I was going to start out with, but we just kind of rolled into it. But, like, what's, like, the biggest thing, what's your biggest piece of advice that you would say to anybody who's still watching or listening regarding mental health?
I think it would be like what I said earlier. I think the biggest thing that has helped me in every situation I've ever been in is just to, like, to give myself the space to feel how you feel. Give yourself the time and the space to feel however you feel and exist however you need to. Like, if you have a day where you just need to, like, lay in bed and just be sad and cry, like, give yourself that time. Yeah. I feel like we're so quick to brush everything under the rug and be like, you need to get over this now, like, you need to just live your life, and that suppresses everything, and you can't heal that way. Like, exactly. Shoving it all down does not make it go away. It just makes it stay stuffed there longer. Yep. So it's like, you have to just let yourself experience whatever you're experiencing. You can't rush yourself. You can't expect for healing to be, like, easy and simple and a step-by-step process. Like, you just have to let yourself experience it, and that shit will pass eventually.
There we go. I love that, because, I mean, that's one of my favorite messages. Literally, don't shove it away. Don't shove even 1% away, because if you shove 1% away of every one of your problems, you're gonna have a huge problem of, like,
75%.
Literally, of a bunch of 1%. It's like at that point you're fighting a monster.
Like, you could have just literally dealt with the 1%.
Literally, you gotta deal with all of it. You gotta accept all of it,
because that shit's never gonna stop coming. Yep. Like, the avalanche never stops.
No, it's just gonna keep, bro. Yeah, we could go into a whole other thing here, but we're gonna
literally have another 45 minutes.
We're gonna wrap it up here. Maybe we can do it again sometime. Get into that. I call it the all-star game of fighting, like, demons. It's like a bunch of, dude, I don't want to get into it anymore. We're gonna end it off here. Hey, that was a fire episode. I appreciate you coming on after the wait. it worked out. It all worked out.
It was like a good month.
Hey, it's gonna drop exactly when I wanted to, so that's all that
good.
matters. But hey, I also forgot to shout out the merch. We really rolled right into it, right out the gate.
Yeah, we actually did.
But hey, new merch. If it's not available now, that means I've been slacking. So it's probably available by the time this drops. So go cop. I'm trying to sell 200 pieces. If we sell 200 pieces, it's going to be looking real good for the future of this podcast. Get some new mics. Don't have to use the old Yeti anymore. Because, yeah, it gets better than this, guys, I promise. But, hey, I appreciate y'all watching. Catch you guys in episode 9 featuring Kellen Overstreet. He's coming back on for the second time. But, hey, love y'all. I'll catch you next time. Hey, that was fire.
Yeah, that was good.
That was, dude, I was like, we'll probably go for, like, 30. But it was like 50.
When you were like, yeah, we should do like 30 minutes, I literally told my friend, I was like, I mean, if he stops me, that's fine, but I'm not just gonna stop at 30 minutes. Like,
literally, bro.
If you get me talking about this shit, I will talk for like 2 hours. So.
Hey, I love it. That's what I need, bro. I like having a female perspective because, like I said, I don't want girls to look at the podcast and be like, no, that's all dudes, you know?
Yeah, for real. I think it's like really good when like Joe Rogan has like girls on his podcast.
Yeah.
I like his ones with girls.
He
has a really good one with Blair, this girl named Blair Smith or Blair White or something like that.